This video will wrap up information on our letter G, the Habsburg Empire, which is ruling the Holy Roman Empire during our chapter on the new monarchs and exploration. So you are finishing up section 1 with this information on Holy Roman emperors. We'll mention Maximilian I, and then we'll go over Charles V. So again, make sure you're referring to these outlines when you are taking notes on the PowerPoint video recordings. We begin with the Holy Roman Emperor Maximilian I. Well, his marriage to Mary of Burgundy will gain the Holy Roman Empire territory in eastern France. Because Burgundy is a region in the eastern part of France, and through this marriage, the Holy Roman Empire will now control that land. So as you can see, what this ends up doing is sparking a dynastic struggle between the royal family in charge of France, the Valois, we've just recently gone over them, and the Habsburgs of the Holy Roman Empire. So this, of course, will spark that major war between the Habsburgs and the Valois, because again, they are fighting over land that the French believe it's truly theirs, and the Habsburgs are trying to say, no, it's ours through marriage. Moving on to the most powerful ruler in the 16th century Europe is Holy Roman Emperor Charles V. So this explains how he is considered the most powerful ruler during that time. He controlled, as the Holy Roman Emperor, the Austrian Habsburg lands, while he also ruled the Spanish Empire at its height. So let me explain, because I don't think I ever gave you the details of how in the world Charles V is also the Habsburg that is ruling Spain at this time, and he's got the title in Spain as Charles I. First, I'll start with Holy Roman Emperor. He took over as the Holy Roman Emperor after his grandfather Maximilian died, the one we just got finished going over. So that was Charles's grandfather on his dad's side, okay? Now, on his mom's side, his grandparents are Ferdinand and Isabella in Spain. So that tells you Charles's mom was the daughter of Ferdinand and Isabella in Spain. So when Ferdinand and Isabella die, Charles is next in line to take over Spain, and he is given the title Charles I. You do not have to write any of that down. I just thought it was interesting to explain how in the world he got both positions. We know that his armies will sack Rome, and when I say his armies, the Holy Roman Empire will be responsible for sacking Rome in the year 1527. And remember, that symbolically ended the Renaissance in the Italian states. During Charles V's rule as the Holy Roman Emperor, we know the Habsburg Valois Wars are going on. And this will involve the Holy Roman Empire locked in a dynastic struggle with Francis I. He was the Valois king of France, for control of Burgundy and territories in present-day Italy, what we would call the Italian states. So that is what those two families were fighting over, who would control Burgundy and who would get territory in the Italian states. We also know that Charles V is going to try and prevent or put a stop to the spread of the Protestant Reformation in the German states throughout the Holy Roman Empire. We know he will not succeed in stopping Protestantism, especially in the northern German states. Remember, we talked about how he was preoccupied with the Turkish threat over in the Mediterranean area, as well as this war with France. And several of you got that correct on a recent quiz. This map just quickly shows you the empire of Charles V. So you can see here his rule over the Holy Roman Empire and him eventually controlling Italian states. That kind of gives away right there that the Habsburgs do beat the Valois in the Habsburg-Valois Wars. And of course, you have him as Charles I, King of Spain. Now, when Charles dies, I'll tell you what happens, and you can just jot this down because we're about to move on to section 2. Charles's brother, Ferdinand, will be the next Holy Roman Emperor. Okay, so that position is transferred over to Charles's brother, Ferdinand. But in Spain, the position of king will go to Charles's son, Philip II. And later we'll talk about why the son of Charles doesn't rule both. There's a specific reason. I don't want to give it away yet, but we will be going over it at a later time. So we have finished section 1 of our new monarchs part of the chapter, and we are moving on to the information that's going to be associated with exploration. So our Roman numeral 2 will discuss the commercial revolution. So start with this outline on Roman numeral 2 and use it again to take notes on this PowerPoint recording. Now I'm going to be honest with y'all, this is not the most exciting part of this chapter, the commercial revolution. So just bear with me, we'll get through it quickly so we can move on to more interesting information. In this space where you have some room before we go to the causes, I want you just to put down what the commercial revolution is. It is an increase in trade between European countries. So between the years 1500 and 1700, we will see an increase in trade between European countries. So if you'll put that right here in this space, increase in trade between European countries. Now we're going to take a look at what caused this increase of trade to take place. One of the causes of this increase in trade, we have to take a look at the roots of the commercial revolution that go back to the Middle Ages, specifically with the Hanseatic League. Now, at another time, we are going to go over the Hanseatic League, so just kind of hold on for now, and I'll explain more about what this is later. A second cause of the commercial revolution is a population growth. You can see here specifically there were 70 million people in the year 1500, and then just 100 years later, that number jumped to 90 million people. So that is a significant increase in population in just 100 years. What that tells us in relation to the commercial revolution, there are going to be more consumers now with more people. So more people means more goods are going to be bought. A third cause of this commercial revolution is a price revolution. Basically, what we have is a long, slow upward trend in prices. So you're going to see inflation. And many contribute this price revolution thanks to more money being brought into a country. So when you bring in more gold and silver, that is going to cause prices to go up. So to be specific, we have an increase in food prices, there's an increased volume of money, and that influx of gold and silver. So all of that is contributing to this price revolution. Increased prices also meant an increase in the supply of goods. So when you have prices go up, that just means there's more money to purchase more goods. So again, just trying to tie this all back to the increase of trade with that commercial revolution. A fourth cause of this commercial revolution, you have states and emergent empires who sought to increase their economic power. So what I mean by that is there's this economic competition among the states. They are all competing economically to be powerful. And then the fifth and final cause of the commercial revolution is the rise of capitalism. Anytime you have capitalism as your economic system, you have entrepreneurs who are investing their money in their own businesses or other business ventures. So these are people who are willing to take a risk and start a business or invest in a business, in hopes of course, making money. We know the middle class, the bourgeoisie, led the way when it came to the rise in capitalism. So with economic competition among states, you're going to see increase in trade. With the rise of capitalism, you're going to see an increase in trade. So again, all of these factors are considered causes of the commercial revolution. Next, we're going to take a look at your typed outline on letter B, the features. So these are the features of your commercial revolution. First, banking. We've talked about the Fuggers as bankers in the German states and the Medicis being the bankers of the Italian city-states. So these two families are among the leading bankers in Europe at this time of the commercial revolution. And they funded countless economic activities. Antwerp, which is a city in Flanders, became the banking and commercial center of Europe in the 16th century. Flanders is just a part of the Netherlands and where Belgium is going to eventually be located. Well, 1 century later, by the 17th century, we're going to see a shift in the banking and commercial center from Antwerp to Amsterdam in the Netherlands. Okay, so it did just switch cities by the 17th century. The second feature of the commercial revolution is the Hanseatic League that I mentioned, that's part of the causes, with basically the roots going back to the Middle Ages with this organization. So to just give you a little bit of background, you don't necessarily have to write this down, but it just might help you understand the Hanseatic League. This was an organization that was formed by northern German towns to protect their mutual trading interests. Okay, so you can understand they're trying to protect their interests within their German towns. Well, as you can see here, what happens during the commercial revolution, this organization will evolve from within the German states, again during the Middle Ages, and eventually control trade in much of Northern Europe. And that will happen well into the 16th century, again, the 1500s. So instead of just protecting their mutual trading interests, they will eventually control trade in much of Northern Europe. So they move from just their German states to now controlling a lot bigger area. So we've taken a look at the first two features of the commercial revolution. I'm going to continue this information on the next video so I can also show you we're moving to a different typed outline.